Tariq, I assume we're watching like The Last Dance. I wanted to talk a little bit about it off the top about the whole idea that Michael Jordan brought up, and it was in a general sense, this whole thing about athletes getting involved in two forms, both politically and commercially, and why it is we as the general public care so much about what these guys think.
Well, I mean, because they're superstars. I mean, Michael Jordan at the time in which he was asked to take this political stance in North Carolina, Helms versus Grant, he's not that type of guy. And that's okay. We have plenty of athletes nowadays that are not that type of athlete, that are not going to endorse a candidate, whether they know more about that candidate or not. And, of course, they're going to take this whole comment about Republicans buy sneakers, too, that he had in jest, a little bit too far. But we didn't have the media as big as it was back then that we do right now, where basically athletes don't mind saying how they feel about what's going on in their city. They don't mind if they have a comment of whether or not people are being treated right. So it's more of it's a change from back then, because that's the era it was in. Play basketball, this is what I do. I'm not going to go into a political world where I don't know anything about these candidates and mistakenly even endorse the wrong one.
Commercially too, Pat, what strikes me is like the case being made that, Jordan's going to Nike was Converse's big mistake. I can't think consciously of ever having bought a product because a particular athlete used it. I don't get the pull there.
Okay, so I think that's a generational thing. Like, as we're having this conversation, like 20 feet to my left are 25 pair of Air Jordan sneakers that I've been collecting my whole life. I'm wearing a Michael Jordan jersey as we speak right now. And if you look at the history of sports brands, I mean, Nike pulled themselves away from Adidas, from Converse, from Reebok, from Pony, from Sport Build at the time because of that brand awareness that Jordan was wearing. I think there was a certain point in your life where you do care what that guy's wearing, what is happening, and it just coincided that this explosion of exposure, along with kids wanting to be like him and emulate him, all came together to make it a legitimate thing. I mean, Bill, were you aware of the brands that your favorite athletes were wearing when you were growing up in New England when you were a kid?
I was not.
So,
brand awareness might be the key phrase that you use there. But honestly, and if even you, I mean, can you remember specifically buying something because so and so likes it?
Yeah, so I when I was a kid, I played street hockey, obviously, with my buddies in the driveway, and I went out and I got the exact same Bauer street hockey pads that Dominic Hasek wore, and I was upset because they only sold them in black and teal, and I wanted them in black, red, and white, just like Hasek had. But I went out of my way to find those things, the exact ones he wore, and went and got the goofy helmet instead of the ones that they were selling at Dick's and all the other kids wore, because I wanted to look just like Dominic Hasek.
But it was weird. When I was a kid, I mean, they had Jordans. All the kids had Jordans. But I lived in an era in New York City where you got your sneakers stolen. So I never even wanted the opportunity to lose those sneakers. So I mean, because they were literally like the Cadillac of kids' sneakers. Like that was the sneaker to have for the first day of school. That was the way it sort of went. But I mean, I remember buying Ballpark Franks, because I have no idea, because I guess Jordan endorsed them, but I don't remember really buying too many other. I don't remember buying too many other items because an athlete had them. I mean, I had Patrick Ewing's because I grew up in New York City. So, I mean, that was kind of kind of had your Ewing. Yeah, that was about it. But I was never really pressured by an athlete to buy anything. But once again, I mean, you have two people already. One that said, yep, I got it because the athlete said I had it. And you have somebody on the other end who's kind of like, meh, I don't really need it.
But, I mean, the way that it's all built, like, Bill, give me the favorite athlete you had when you were a kid, someone you idolized. Who was it?
I suppose, Larry Bird was kind of big.
Okay, so let's say if you were 13 years old and Larry Bird only talked about his Converses and I play better because of my Converses, what teenage kid is not going to think if I go get these sneakers, I'm going to be like, play like, at least look like Larry Bird?
Yeah, I guess. I'm thinking more along the lines of, like, do you drink Gatorade because so-and-so does, or the brand of popcorn you use or whatever. This is worth multi-million dollars to the companies to get these guys to say they use it. And I don't know how you get any bang for that.
It must have worked. Look at all the advertising money Gatorade has made and how much it worked for Hanes, for Michael Jordan. Like it worked. It worked enough to get not the entire market, but enough people to be interested in buying a specific type of underwear.
Yeah.
And going back, I'm sorry, go ahead, Bill.
Well,
going back to that whole brand awareness idea, right? Like when I see Michael Jordan, he's so associated with McDonald's, that is a McDonald's commercial. He's so associated with Hanes, that's a Hanes commercial. When I see Tom Brady, he is so associated with Uggs. Every time I see Tom Brady, I think avocado and Uggs. I'm not kidding, because Tom Brady talks about avocados and he talks about wearing Uggs, and it stands out. Stetson cologne, right? Like they become these athletes, if you can tie them to your product, a walking commercial without them having to say a word about it.
Are you going to ask Bill if he owns Uggs? Are you really going to ask him that on this show?
I know he does.
That I do?
Yeah, I mean, you look stylish enough where you could pull that off.
I'm going to plead the fifth.